This is the Random Nintendo podcast for... No, I'm totally messed up. Random Nintendo 62, take 2, take 3, take 5, April 29th. I'm one of your hosts, Kevin.
There you go.
To my virtual left, as always, is Jason.
I'm here for all the takes. Yep.
To my virtual... Wait, I'm so messed up right now. To my virtual right is Angel.
Angel.
How are you guys doing?
Jason?
Really, Kevin, I'm more concerned. How are you doing? That was a rough. Are
I'm
you
doing
okay?
Okay.
That's good.
Thanks for worrying.
Yeah, anytime. But yeah, I'm good. It feels like we're on a bit of a come down from some of the craziness of April and all the Switch 2 stuff for me. So it's kind of nice to have like a little quiet lull at the moment. So yeah, I'm pretty good. How about well, we know how Kevin is. Angel, what about you?
Yeah, I'm here, going on a pretty nice lull since we last recorded on the 20 whatevers, 13th whatevers, 14th, something.
The 14th. Or it went up the 14th, yeah.
Yeah. I can finally say I've been to Knott's for the Boysenberry Festival. It's still very much Knott's, but with, a section of the park having a lot of Boysenberry stuff. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Pretty fun.
I've never had a Boysenberry.
It's too crazy to talk about. It tastes like it's literally what it is, but like it just tastes like a cranberry, like a sweeter cranberry. I couldn't tell you exactly what a blackberry tastes like individually, because I don't think I've had enough to be like, oh, that's blackberry. But I definitely taste the cranberry of the hybrid mix, but it's just sweeter. So we had
a boysenberry is a hybrid of a blackberry and a cranberry. Is that what you're saying?
And some third berry that I forgot the name of.
What?
It's it's a Knott's original creation. If you didn't know that.
What?
Which is why they make such a big fuss about it.
I was gonna say it is weird that like theme parks like, oh, it's Star Wars night at Disneyland, it's Halloween Horror Nights at Universal, and Knott's is like, we got boysenberries. But now it makes more sense if it's a weird lab creation that Knott's did years ago through not labs, but farming and seeding and stuff. But wow, I had no idea it was a fake fruit.
It's a cross between a raspberry, blackberry, dewberry, and a loganberry. The last two of which I couldn't tell you what they tasted or looked like.
So no cranberry in this equation, even though that's the thing it most was a reference point for you.
You know what? When I said cranberry, I meant raspberry, but you're right. Yeah, so there is no cranberry in the equation, but there is plenty of raspberry. And I think that is probably what cranberry and blackberry probably make up the color most, because purple is very prevalent. We had like chili infused. Chili infused with boysenberry. We had plenty of boysenberry drinks. Wine with boysenberry, sangria with boysenberry, tequila with boysenberry. Boysenberry mule, boysenberry mojito.
Wait, hold on. You drank all these things in the same go? Like in the same day?
In the same day. And then a boysenberry espresso martini. And I didn't drink the last one. We sipped, we tasted a lot of it, because we got like a test flight. A flight of them.
Oh, it was a flight. Okay.
Yeah,
some of them, like you got boysenberry drunk.
Some of them we had like full drinks of, like the sangria and the tequila, the boysenberry tequila smash, which was fine. It tasted more like spiked pink lemonade, if anything. They also had like a boysenberry brownie that was not so much brownie, but more like if you take those turtle paste cookies, candies, the chocolate with peanut butter toffee and stuff, and just made that a giant block. That's what that was. So, it's kind of missing everything that makes a brownie a brownie. But it was chill. We did mainly that and just the food stuff, and we rode the train. Some other rides were closed. Did go on Supreme Scream and some dune buggy ride, but yeah, for what you're paying, it's a fine park. It's nice and chill. Started day early, ended early. Was literally knocked out by 6. So,
after having that many boysenberry drinks.
All right.
What about pie? Did you have boysenberry pie? That feels like the obvious thing to eat, but it's the one thing you didn't mention.
There was pie, but I am not typically like a pie person, so I didn't bother. Someone else in our group had like boysenberry elote. They said it was fine. But a lot of stuff was like, I'm glad we tried it, but I'm probably not getting that again. So like, it's like
Right.
yeah, unless you really like sweet stuff, because dang, like everything is so sweet, and having that many drinks, because there was still a decent amount of drinks, even if some of them like we did like taste, there was still a good amount of drinking. So the sugar, with more sugar on more sugar, wasn't the best combo, but yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to.
How big of a boysenberry bunch were you? How many people went?
4. There were
I just wanted
originally
to say
2
boysenberry
others,
bunch,
but
to be honest.
yeah, there were originally 2 others, but they had to cancel last minute, unfortunately. But yeah.
For anyone listening, if you make a drinking game out of all the times we collectively said boysenberry, you probably will have as much to drink as Angel sampled at Knott's, because we just said a lot in the span of 5 minutes.
Pretty sure that was the last time I'm going to say Boysenberry regarding the Boysenberry Festival. And Knott's Berry
You
Farm.
just said it 2 more.
I didn't necessarily buy any Boysenberry themed merch either,
3
though
more.
other people in the group did buy Boysenberry jam, Boysenberry popcorn, Boysenberry coffee, and I think there was also Boysenberry jam whiskey with whiskey in it. Which I did.
Are you trying to give listeners alcohol poisoning at this point? Because I make the drinking game point, and then
someone else had like a boysenberry sausage.
What?
Yeah. Huh. But literally anything you could think of that they could squeeze boysenberry into, they definitely tried. It's definitely very admirable, and I definitely recommend you just get like the taste card. It's like an additional $50 to your entry, which is roughly around like 60 something bucks if you buy your ticket online. But you essentially get 6 items from the listed items available that have boysenberry in them. But the funny thing is that a lot of the drinks are worth like $18 if you don't use the card. So the fact that you get 6 items for $50, and in theory you could use them all on drinks, you could make almost more than double your money. You can make almost your double your money back in drinks. But obviously we didn't use it all on drinks. But yeah, so it's definitely worth it if you're just like, trying to be cost effective, because there's a lot of stuff to try, a lot of desserts, a lot of savory things and sweet things. But yeah, that's all I gotta say on the boysenberry matter. It was boysenberry good for a bit, and then it was boysenberry fine.
I missed an opportunity. I said the boysenberry bunch, but if it was a group of boys, it could have been the boysenberry.
Oh no, it's a pretty even split group.
Oh well, okay. I guess I didn't miss my opportunity to call the boys the boysenberry.
Yeah, it was boysenberry even. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you had a boys. Okay, we need to stop. It sounds like you had a boysenberry good time, but I'm gonna hopping off the boysenberry train now.
I'm boysenberry done. Yeah. If only we had a better segue. I'm gonna stop talking.
I was waiting for Kevin to chime back in. Like I thought we lost him because of all the boysenberry.
No, there's a power move, and he's winning because I keep talking.
Yeah, I know, because we're still talking. It's his move. He's shaming us for all the boysenberry puns. I know. That's exactly what's happening.
I'm as tired as you are, listener.
8.5 minutes of boysenberries.
Did we find our episode title?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, not boysenberry related, but bear related. There was a boysenberry at the park, but I just remembered that I did finally take a win off of Kevin and Astro Bear, so that's kind of boysenberry adjacent.
Real quick, just when
if I was using the same bear as I was last time, I think I would have.
If you remembered which bear it was.
I didn't remember which bear I was.
Dang.
But
well,
I'm pretty sure I would have had you.
It's tied of anything.
And for those who have yet to play
Astro... You totally roasted me. One game doesn't balance it out. But anyway.
For those who have not played Astro Bear on the Switch eShop, and it's like a very cheap little game, but it's basically like Tron around a globe, where you're kind of like driving, you're making trails and trying to cut off each other and kill each other, and it's surprisingly addicting. So it's the Tetrasphere of Tron, if you will. So check that out for people who have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, it came
out
got lost in the first 2 years of the Switch too. So the fact that it kind of comes in and out of rotation in our group over the past however many years the Switch has been out is pretty impressive for it. And the fact that I'm pretty sure we've called it out on the podcast at least 3 times.
Yeah, and it's one of those games. It's just the Switch is such a great platform for like couch multiplayer, and like it's a perfect example of it. It's simple, it's to the point, no frills. It's just some bears running around the globe, and it's really fun. Yeah. We're doing great with the segues today, guys. Super, super, super good. Kevin, what's new with you?
Absolutely zero. Speaking of zero, let's get into our first topic.
You know what? I applaud that segue because I know what this topic is, and you transition smooth.
From zero, Linkin Park.
Deluxe
Jason
edition
has
coming
his
May
thoughts.
16th.
Jason gave his thoughts on this album when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time for my version. This is from zero, Kevin's version.
I'm slightly scared, I'm going to be honest.
I did not like this album one bit.
Yep, that's why I was scared. The speed at which you text me, like, I listened to this whole thing, I'm like, oh, he wouldn't be telling me this if it wasn't going to be a take. So, carry on. Sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
No, yeah, this album's not for me. This felt sort of like Linkin Park was trying to compensate for the fact that they no longer have Chester with this new singer. For the simple fact that a lot of the albums just sounded like Meteora era
Adjacent.
Linkin Park.
Yeah.
Which is my favorite era of Linkin Park. But this has sort of has this redundancy, and like I said, this sort of overcompensation where they want you to like this new era, right, of Linkin Park. So why not give you a little something that sounds like what you used to like back in the day? But the album just had no bite for me. I do not like Emily Armstrong as I mean, like she's fine, but I just don't.
It's not
I'm not a fan of her shtick of trying to be this Chester replacement. Because for as much as Linkin Park and Emily can say that she's not meant to replace Chester, if that was the case, you wouldn't try to do this screamo singing stuff that Chester used to do. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel. I have nothing else to say except I will continue to listen to Hybrid Theory and Meteora and none of the other catalog.
It is interesting, though, that like it is kind of two sides of the same coin, right? Because what you're describing about how it felt like they were throwing back to their old sound to try and like be like, see, we're what we were, is exactly what, as like the diehard Linkin Park fan that I am, that likes all their albums and has listened past Meteor, like that's exactly what I was kind of looking for, was like a proof of concept of, oh yeah, the band can carry on. And I get what you're saying, that, you know, it to you it doesn't work as a Chester replacement, but it is funny that you basically were the like inflection of what I was saying when it first came out. Like I was saying as a positive, because I was like, yeah, my favorite band's back and they nailed all these different sounds and they can do it and da-da-da-da. And you're like, yeah, the band's back and they're doing their old sounds and and I don't know, and I don't like it. They can't do it. So it's funny how they're kind of like exact opposites.
It's not necessarily
with the same like foundation of what the album is. Yeah,
they're the same. They're the same band without any of the lyricism that I liked before. It sounds like they are artificially back as opposed to naturally back. That's more what I mean. Everything about this album sounds fake. Like I said, as if they're overcompensating for the fact that Chester's not here, which just makes it feel a little bit more hollow.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I did get that impression, but again, that's each their own. But yeah, no, it is funny that like ultimately we're kind of describing the album the exact same way, just with two different takes on the delivery of the concept of it. Yeah. I'm personally, I still, not to like overshadow yours for him, and then for me it's a 10 out of 10. But
you have to use 0 in the somewhere, Jason.
Yeah, the zeros inside tens. 10/10.
Okay.
There you go. No, but I was gonna say that for me, I'm like super into it, as I've talked about in November, but they actually have a couple new songs out, and this is where to me it gets a little more interesting actually, is so they put out a song called Up From the Bottom at the end of March, and that sounds very like, I don't know, like Living Things era of Linkin Park. For those who keep track of the band, that was their 5th album. And then they just put out on Friday, this past Friday, a song called Unshatter, and that is the least Linkin Park sounding song of the bunch to me. It's a little grungier. It's a little more Dead Sarah, which is where Emily was before, like her other band before she joined Linkin Park. Like a little hint of that. So that's kind of interesting because it's like they're starting to sort of shift. It's a little like punkier, and they're starting to kind of shift that way, at least with one song that was a B-side. So they are experimenting a little, and then they have a 3rd song that will be on the deluxe that comes out with the deluxe in a couple of weeks, called like Let It Fade or something like that. And that one's supposed to be like kind of, I some people have heard it. It sounds like it's a little more like a different one of their albums. So they are kind of picking and pulling from different eras. Yeah. But sorry it didn't resonate with you, Kevin.
No, you don't have to apologize. I was well aware that I was not going to like this based off the singles. I liked what's that one song, the opener?
Emptiness Machine.
Emptiness Machine, just fine, but like I said, it just felt a little, that song sounded okay, but the reason it just sounded okay to me was just because, like I said, it sort of felt like a hollow retread of their earlier stuff.
Sure. You want to get into the deep lore about it, which I'm sure you don't, but most of their old stuff and most of their new stuff is both written by Mike Shinoda, with either Chester then or Emily now kind of just contributing. So the through line of who's doing it is still the same guy in terms of putting the music together. But yes, if it's a different singer and he's trying to capture an old sound, then there's got to be those comparisons made for sure. Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. Jason's translation, basically, all your thoughts are invalid because they're still
No, not at all. No, not at all. But I just
I knew he wouldn't understand.
I do get it. I mean, but
I'm joking.
yeah, I know. But anyway,
yeah. Anyways,
in the end, it does matter.
Jason, let's keep it with stuff that you like.
The Switch or
sure.
Okay.
Dealer's choice. You choose what you want.
I'll do the Switch 2 pre-order stuff, I guess. Yeah, if we will actually not just talk about things that I'm very invested in, but things that have caused emotional turmoil in the way your review of From Zero did. No, I'm kidding. Switch 2 pre-orders. So 2 out of the 3 of us, I think. Actually, yeah. Kevin, you decided not to get one at launch, right?
Not necessarily. I don't want one. I just don't want to go through the hassle of
trying to get one,
setting up apps on my phone to notify me when they're back in stock somewhere. Like, as soon as I can just buy one on Amazon without any hassle, like I will buy one.
Fair. And here's the funny thing. Angel, if I'm not mistaken, you bought one with zero hassle on pre-order night, didn't you?
I mean, it's debatable, but like, yes and no. It seems like depending on what like retailer and method you chose, this could have been a very streamlined process or a very arduous one. Like I have like a friend that kind of did the same thing that I did, because I had 4 sites up, and right at 9, like, I wasn't really having luck with any. But then around 9:30, because Best Buy decided to just like, do it later.
Delayed for half an hour, even though they promised everyone 9. Yeah.
Yeah, like at 9:30, like their pre-order button went live, and I selected there on my computer, and it just kind of sat there for like 3 minutes, and then I'm just like, oh, maybe let me just try the app. So I opened up my phone, checked the app, and within like 2 minutes, I was in and out. Like it was like if I had just waited for the app, that would have been great. And like I mentioned, I had a friend at work that only cared to do it through Best Buy's mobile app and didn't try anything else. So as far as they knew, it was like the easiest thing ever. They just went in.
So I'm going to poke a hole in what you're saying, because I also had the Best Buy mobile app, and it was not that experience for me, and I did exactly what you did. So there is a luck of the draw to it all.
So
oh, okay. They had Jason. They had me plastered on all like the screens in their command center. Like, don't let this guy through. Yeah, that must have been it. But no, I think there was.
We both also have a Best Buy credit card. Maybe that's the other.
Interesting. Are you guys also part of? No, probably not. But are you also part of the premium membership thing?
That you have a credit card will make your experience smoother.
Unless, here's a question: were you signed in? Were you signed into a premium Best Buy account? Like, did you pay for a membership, like their total member thing, prior to the thing going live?
I guess not, because I don't pay.
Okay, then never mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Once it became like a paid thing, that's when I just never signed up for the paid thing. Like before, I had all their benefits just for being like a platinum spender, like like Nintendo did with their platinum rewards. Like if you spend over a certain threshold, and at some point they're like, you know what, this is not due. Then I have you play like a flat rate. And
it is also a fat rate. It's like $100. Yeah, it's basically Prime. Yeah,
but having the credit card has been more than enough, and you still get like the points, so it's still been worth it.
I do think it is luck of the draw. Like it is nice that you and your friend it worked out for, but I can name 2 other people who were stuck in the quagmire that I was in where it didn't work doing the same thing. So it is, you got lucky. But the problem is it shouldn't be luck.
Where did you learn English?
What'd I say? What?
Stuck in the quagmire?
Isn't that a term, a quagmire? That's literally where the Pokemon's name comes from. A quagmire is like a bog or a swamp or something. And and getting stuck in it is like an expression here. Yeah, and then quagmire, the Pokemon's named after the word. Point is, the fact that you were able to breathe
in your town.
Thank you. I am from Montana. There were probably bogs in and around the city, so we probably had a swamp or two. We had Frenchtown Pond, which was pretty swampy, about 40 minutes out of town, so maybe 20 minutes. So that's where I learned quagmire. Thank you, and the Pokemon. I've actually learned multiple vocabulary words from Pokemon. Ditto, quagmire. Like there's a few examples. Far-fetched. Like I never knew those words until Pokemon taught them to me. So thanks.
I think
Pokemon.
I remember thinking maybe like Farfetch was just like, oh, that's just the Pokemon's name, and then later learning separately that Farfetch has a meaning, and then going, what does that have to do with the Pokemon?
Because he's hard to get. It's far-fetched to go get one.
I guess it's that far-fetched that he's carrying his own, like,
no, it's far-fetched to get one because you only get one opportunity, don't you? It's far-fetched to come across one.
He's like a trade Pokemon, so it's not like he's rare.
But it's far-fetched that it'll work out. Like, it's not easy to get. You have to find the right person with the right thing. It's a far-fetched endeavor. I will say, though, with far-fetched, they took out to make it not just the word, they took the E out of far-fetched ED. Like, it's just apostrophe D, which I always thought was funny, like lazy naming on that one. But
I mean, that's kind of Pokemon. They just like swap a letter and you got a Pokemon name for like.
That's true. Quagmire is the same deal. Yeah, he's the far-fetched in naming. Yeah, he's the gold and silver equivalent. But anyway,
there's a Pokemon called Cherim. It's like you got Cherry. Let's just add an M and bam, Pokemon name.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, and when there's 1,000 of them, you gotta get a little less creative over time because you just run out of things. Yeah, but what I was getting at with Quagmire is like it was such a kind of a crapshoot, and I feel like it's like the story of everything with the Switch 2 so far. It's like there's just chaos that could have maybe been prevented in different ways. I think with the retailers. So my experience was way more chaotic. So I had myself and I had Rachel helping me. Man, she was a trooper. Like we were at it for like 3 hours trying to get these Switch 2s. Jesus. And yeah. So here's kind of how it shook out. I had the Best Buy website in a tab, Target in a tab, Walmart in a tab, and Best Buy on my phone. Rachel had Target in a tab, multiple Best Buy tabs, and Walmart in a tab, and I think Walmart on her phone. 2 minutes to 9 rolls around, and somehow the Walmart pre-order is like available, like to click.
You're running around the house going, "Oh my god, it's happening!"
I mean, essentially, but on the couch, I was like, it's happening. No, I was at GIF. Yeah, no, but So 2 minutes to 9 rolls around and I click pre-order and it takes me to the Walmart queue, which a lot of people got on. And that queue does, for a lot of people, not show a time. If you just sat there for like an hour plus, it might just push you through. I got in the queue and it showed me a time and it counted all the way down to 1 minute. And I was like, oh, this is great. So I at least can get Walmart. Now, my goal was to get it launch night. I want to be able to pick it up at 9 p.m. from Best Buy ultimately and be able to play it that first night. Because, I don't play my games a lot, but when I do, it's right at the beginning. So I want to get in on the ground floor. And so Walmart was like a backup. Walmart claimed they could deliver by 9 a.m. the next day. That was their sales pitch. So not launch night, but launch day, the 5th. It would be at my house by 9 a.m., but not good enough. I wanted it the night before. So I was in the line for Walmart, and I get down to 1 minute, and it just sits at 1 minute for like 45 minutes. And I start to get a little panicked, like, oh, is it not going to go through? What's going on? Am I stalled out? And they let you leave the line and browse the site, and it still holds your place. And I was doing that a few times just to make sure it was still working. And it was. So I was like, all right, I'll keep doing that, waiting for Best Buy to go live. That was until 9:30, like you said, which, by the way, very weird on Best Buy's part to say one time and then make you sit for half an hour to another time without any communication. And then simultaneously, Rachel tried to get one through on Target. And this was a problem a lot of people had, including my friend who lives up in Seattle. And you guys know him, Andrew. And also Jeff Keighley, who you also know. In all these instances, everyone kept being able to make a purchase or get to the payment screen, and then the payment would either fail instantly at Target or it would go through only to send you a cancellation email 30 seconds later. So Andrew got one like in the first minute, and then it got canceled. And then it wouldn't let him rebuy from Target because it said he had one, even though it was canceled. So that was one situation going on with Target. Then Best Buy was not going till 9:30, and I'm sitting there watching this queue that wasn't moving. From 1 minute to 0 to let me through. And eventually I started just, continually clicking around. And at some point the queue just disappeared. Like it was saying, Walmart has a thing, shop while you wait in the queue and we'll show you your place. So I was just clicking around just to keep my session alive or whatever. And then it just disappeared. I just was out of the queue. I didn't tell it to leave. It just suddenly the box wasn't there. And then I started to just feel sad at that point. And this was like 9:45, give or take. So now Best Buy was starting to fire, and you were able to waltz in, essentially, wait 3 minutes, get it on the app. On my app, on my browser, on Rachel's 3 tabs, Best Buy kept putting us in just the generic queue, which isn't as good as Walmart's. It doesn't actually put you in a sort of ordered line. It's like they just draw out of a hat, it feels like. And they don't tell you your place, and they don't tell you anything. So we had 5 Best Buy queues going while Walmart was dropping me. Eventually, I just started clicking around Walmart again, and somehow I landed in a cart with a Switch. I don't know how. I would click, I go back to the Switch 2 order, hit pre-order, and the box would be there and just be like, error, because I think it still thought I was in the queue, maybe. It was like, error, try again, which is not something I saw people report online. They were saying, the button's not there, or I'm stuck in a queue. I was getting this weird third scenario. So I just kind of kept doing that while refreshing, while watching Best Buy and refreshing Target. And long story short, Walmart pulled through somehow, but not for the promise of day one delivery by 9 a.m. It was going to be the next day, which, okay, sure. I can live with that, I guess. But then Best Buy, we kept going because I still was kind of hoping for midnight, or at that point to get a second Switch to then give to Andrew up in Seattle, who was struggling to get one. And Best Buy kicked us out of the queues 3 or 4 times. And then finally, about 90 minutes later, said it was sold out. And that was the end of that. And it was just I know, so for retailers, I understand that for them, their main priority is just getting the sale. So for them, I get they're not going to make the most incredible queue system because if I get booted, someone else will buy it for a high demand item. There's not incentive for Best Buy to make a better queue because they will still sell out of the thing, as we saw demonstrated on Switch 2 night. And Target doesn't even build a queue. It's just good luck. And Walmart at least had good queue, but was kind of glitchy and it still worked out. So I get that retailers aren't fully incentivized to make the best experience for pre-orders. But I'm just looking at how it all shook out. One site wasn't letting payments go through. One site was kicking you out of a line and then was 30 minutes late with no communication. A third site, Walmart, was actually half decent, but still had its issues, and it's just kind of there's got to be a better way for these sites to handle things like this in the in the 2020s.
No. Take this as somebody who has gone through numerous graphics card launches.
It's the same
graphics cards who don't have nearly the same amount of stock or eyes on them the same way that Switch 2 would. No, these systems have always been absolute ass. That's what led me to actually physically going to a Micro Center instead of having to rely on a Best Buy website or Newegg. For instance, this graphics card that I just had, that I just bought. I woke up at 6 a.m. and loaded up Best Buy. Same thing. It's the exact same queuing system that you went through. What sold out within minutes. Newegg, I bought 2 separate cards because the first card that I bought around 6:15 a.m. after the site had stopped finally crashing on me and stopped responding. Maybe about 2 minutes later, I got an email saying hey, no, sorry, you actually don't have the card. So I had to buy another one, and the same thing happened. That's what led me to actually physically go out to a micro center down in Tustin, past Santa Ana,
That's a
to
drive.
actually like
Yeah.
wait in line to get this card. Unfortunately, going online for something as hot as this was always going to be a crapshoot. And like, I don't blame the people that are still doing, the waiting in line overnight for a Best Buy or a Target or whoever, had that option. That honestly would have been your best
Well,
bet
that's
instead of having the headache of and the heartbreak of going through this online retailers.
not just the headache and the heartbreak, but also the emotional like at the end, it was like 11:30 at night, right? And I'm just sitting there. I was like exhausted. Like I felt like I like ran a marathon. All I did was sit on a laptop next to someone else on another laptop. But yeah,
Jason
it
realized he had a problem.
yeah, that's when I was like, oh man, no. But I'm gonna echo your
To be
point
fair,
about
we've known this for
physical.
years.
Yeah, I mean now I'm awakening to it. But no, I'm echoing your point because there is a second chapter to my story, which is the next day. At that point, I'm like, all right, I'll take the Walmart one. I'll keep Wario 64 and similar deal alert accounts notifications on in case Best Buy bubbles up, whatever. And then Rachel's just like, why don't you just try GameStop? Like, so GameStop did something different. They had 8 a.m. Lineup, or no, sorry, not 8 a.m. They had 8 a.m. order online, but that was a separate inventory, and that was a total
11
disaster
a.m.,
as well as you can
wasn't
imagine. It was 8 a.m. to get the online order, 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific. All these times we're talking about are Pacific, yeah. But that was a mess. That completely glitched out. You couldn't even sign in for a while. Whatever. But then the stores had, and this was very smart on GameStop's part, had a separate inventory per store that you could not cross with the online inventory. Like something that I think helps with why iPhones don't go through this, even though, they have more supply, but obviously the rush for a new iPhone, especially in like peak a few years ago when it was always, gotta get the coolest new phone right away. They were diversified, right? Like the inventory is diversified. It wasn't just one or two Switch 2s or one graphics card. It was like 8 or 10 different SKUs for iPhone. So they could kind of like divvy up some of the load, so to speak, a little, because some people will be going for one and some will go for another, and it kind of helped, smooth that out.
For the record,
yeah.
graphics cards, just FYI, is way more than 8 SKUs for
is it?
graphics card launch.
Well, then never mind that point. But what GameStop did that I thought was, thank you for pointing that out. I didn't know that. What GameStop did I thought was smart is they didn't cross the streams. So they had their online system and you could do it online. They had their in-store system and you can go in store. And, the story of the Switch 2 so far, Nintendo does one thing right, one thing wrong, right? Like the console's really cool, the games are cool, but there's all this information issues of how they're getting out the pricing details and whatnot. Like it's always like a step forward, step back. Credit where it's due for Nintendo here. Step forward, they had a ton of inventory, all things considered, compared to like past console launches, because GameStops were getting like 150 units some stores easily. And what surprised me was so like midday, I wasn't even considering GameStop, but then I started to hear like it's not that bad. People are still getting them. And then Rachel actually kind of pushed me like, just stop on the way home, see if they have it. So I stopped at one at a mall not far from my office. They had 84 Mario Kart bundles that morning available for pre-order, and they had 43 just consoles by themselves. They still had 12 of the consoles by themselves. They still had 100 people line up in the morning. They had people lining up starting at 4 a.m. They had to bring in extra staff. The guy I was talking to was saying he got called in 4 hours early to help manage the load. But even with that, because it was a separate inventory and because GameStop probably very strategically pivoted most of their stock towards in-store to promote the in-store experience and remind people why maybe you should start, shop at GameStop or whatever. Like, don't deal with the scalpers, don't deal with the internet, just come on in like you had with the Micro Center experience. Because they did all that, I went at 5 p.m. the day after the pre-order chaos online and got one for 9 p.m. pickup on launch night. No problem. No line. No way. I was in and out in 5 minutes. So like it was doable, but I think to your point about like there's just something so much easier and better about just going the old school route. Like even 12 hours later, and I was seeing stuff on Reddit that people were doing it 2 or 3 days later. Like Nintendo did put out a ton of these. They've been starting to deliver them to warehouses in the U.S. back in January. The reason the leaks happened, I think, at the scale they did is because they've been producing these things forever to bulk up supply. And then GameStop, in tandem with this, very strategically put an emphasis on their in-store experience and try and get people back in the store, because once you're in the store, maybe you'll buy some other stuff. You know, rediscover GameStop. It's not all random toys and like them trying to mooch off crypto and NFTs. Like, they have a legit retail experience that this was a reminder, isn't so bad. So I think like just that 1-2 punch actually worked really well. And I still have the Walmart one. I'm still getting it to Andrew, but yeah, it was nice to be able to get what I wanted with no hassle the next day. And I was just very pleasantly surprised. Yeah, and I do think Nintendo, maybe this isn't on them, the retailer situation. Every retailer, like I said, is motivated to do what they're doing for their own purpose. GameStop was motivated to get people to come back to their stores, so they probably put a lot of inventory that way. Best Buy's motivated to just sell as many as they can as quick as they can, so they don't care about a good queue. Like, they all have their own motivations. But I do think it was interesting that Nintendo, and maybe it's because of retail deals they struck, but Nintendo in the U.S. specifically didn't like help with the pressure gauge here. Like, there's a valve they could have turned to kind of turn down some of the intensity of the pressure on the retailers, and they did not turn it. And that valve is the My Nintendo Store pre-orders. So you could express your interest to Nintendo directly, and they will tell you, yes, you will be able through May 8th to 11th get an email from us, perhaps, and in that email you might have an opportunity to get your Switch through us, and we will send it to you. Can't guarantee launch day, but right around launch. And then they will like kind of roll through those requests in perpetuity until they get through them all. And they started with their most active users. You have to have 12 months of Switch Online. You have to have 50 hours of play time. You have to, you know, demonstrate you're a real person, basically, and have all this already logged on your account before they even introduced this pre-order system. The thing I thought was kind of weird is they had even after they announced the new pre-order date, they had like a 5 to 6 day window between when they announced when it was happening and when it happened, that they could have started doing the My Nintendo Store invitations. Like, they could have turned some of the pressure down a little by starting to siphon some folks through Nintendo's own payment process. And thus those folks who are more likely to be the ones that want it sooner rather than later wouldn't be necessarily feeling as much urge to do what I did and have a million tabs open and spamming a bunch of different websites and all that. Like, it seems like if Nintendo was able to time that better, and again, it could be for retail purposes that they, like retail partnerships, maybe they couldn't time it better. Like, maybe I'm Best Buy and I say, hey, well, we love to carry your system, but we're going to do a big marketing blowout. We'll put your Switch 2 on all the big marquee things in our windows in the front of the store. But in order for that to happen, you need to let us try and sell it first. So maybe that's why Nintendo didn't do it. But it looked like those retail partnerships are very fragile. I mean, look at how Amazon and Nintendo don't get along anymore, and now Amazon's not selling the Switch 2. So I understand if that's why, but it would have been really nice if Nintendo were able to do what they did in Europe and just start the My Nintendo invitation process prior to the retail process, just to get some of that stress off their partners' websites, you know? Were you going to say something, Angel?
What was the lore behind Amazon and Nintendo?
So the lore. So this comes courtesy of an interview from a month or two ago that Nintendo's former employees, Kit and Krista, did with a former retail partnership manager at Nintendo who worked with them. Basically, it sounds like Amazon wants a bigger cut per sale of game or console than Nintendo is willing to give. And Nintendo's like, no, we don't want to give you a bigger cut. And Amazon's like, well, then we don't want to sell your system. And, you know, basically the undertone being, you're going to lose sales if you don't work with us here. Like, if we're not going to sell your system, give us the bigger cut because you'll get your sales. And Nintendo's like, try us. And sure enough, Nintendo didn't see a single drop in sales after Amazon stopped its products in the Wii U days. So now Amazon tends to be doing that. Yeah, originally. And now it seems like Nintendo and Amazon are doing that same little do-si-do a second time with the Switch 2. That's the gist of it. Is Amazon's trying to, strong arm a better rate for themselves. Because the margins on these games, honestly, like, if you're a retailer, and again, I think this is why it was so smart that GameStop tried to get more people in store and had a better in-store experience. Because now I'm like, oh, GameStop's actually not bad. Like, okay, because, they had that bad reputation for a while, but it was a pleasant experience. They didn't try and upsell me. I know some were caught doing bundles, which corporate is saying they're not supposed to do, but no upsell, no... you have to get a bundle. No, do you want to get this game? It's just the one question, which is what Best Buy asked too. do you want the buyer protection plan? I said, no, thank you. And he's like, okay, great. And I was done. And there wasn't a single like pitch of, do you need this game? Do you need this accessory? You can only buy it with three like the three of the Joy-Con wheel accessory. Like, nope. It was just easy peasy in and out in 5 minutes. So, where was I going with that? What was I saying? Oh yeah. So I think what I was starting to say is a lot of, retailers, the margins aren't huge on these things, right? Like the intention of having someone buy from you is you get whatever margin you can, but also if you can get them in store physically, you might be able to get them to get some other stuff too. Like that's why I think GameStop did what they did and angled towards in stores and had such a smooth in-store experience, which has been pretty much universal from what I've been reading online. Like it's just been a good experience mostly. But yeah, so Amazon doesn't have that like retail footprint in the same way. So for them, I have to imagine they're making a pitch to Nintendo of like, listen, we only get, I'm just gonna make up numbers, I don't know what it actually is. We only get $10 per game, but we don't get like the benefit of like you bringing us foot traffic. So we want $12 per game. And Nintendo's probably like, well, we don't want to give you $12 because we give all our partners $10. And that's, probably how it shook out, essentially. If my loose understanding of this is anywhere near correct. And I know that like for indie game stores too, that they're in like a separate bucket within that Nintendo looks at, and they have an even harder time getting stuff because for them the margins are like even thinner because they're working at a smaller scale. So each game they need that much more money back in their pocket from selling it to keep afloat, while Best Buy can work, in mass, or GameStop can work at scale or what have you. So it's a whole interesting, like the whole retail game is a weird, interesting thing that I barely know much about, but I pieced together little bits and things. But yeah, it was a crazy experience to get a Switch 2, but ended up very, as best can be. And even better, in that same mall as the GameStop is a Best Buy. So I had pre-orders for games at Best Buy because I had a gift card, and I just moved those pre-orders to the Best Buy in the mall with the GameStop, and I'll just walk from one store to the next and get everything launch night. So it all worked out. But man, was it a harrowing tale to get there. So that was my pre-order experience. But yeah, I really would have liked if Nintendo were able to open their pre-orders themselves sooner, and I would have liked if Nintendo did a little better job of kind of explaining the situation, because they have an app, Nintendo Today, that has a calendar, and I thought this was so bizarre, they never put in the calendar the pre-orders. Not for themselves, not for their partners. If you go into the Nintendo Today app where they list things like new Switch Online editions, like here's whatever new Genesis game, and in Berlin today we're doing the Switch 2 hands-on experience. All that's in the calendar, and yet there's not a single thing about like buying a Switch 2. And I just thought that was also kind of weird. Again, it's like one step forward, one step back. There are tons of Switch 2s for people to go buy if the system's hold up to let you buy it, but then they don't tell you in the place where they put all their important dates when you can go buy it. That just struck me as a little strange. So, it's not the smoothest of launches for Nintendo, but we're getting there. We're moving towards June successfully, I guess. So, do you guys even have the Nintendo Today app?
I do, but I forget to check it.
You're not missing much.
I haven't quite figured out. I don't know. It doesn't feel like intuitive to me when I look at it. Like,
well, that's what you would think. There's nothing to figure out, but it's a very strange app.
Because like when
my bad, I'm sorry, Angel. I didn't realize that Nintendo was going to somehow needlessly complicate this thing.
I mean, the app is simple, but what it shares is not.
Like, I just wish it was like. I mean, maybe it is, and it just isn't clear to me. But like the feed, like I kind of wish it told you like which news, for which day, unless every new piece of news responds to one day.
That's a complication they do. So the main feed is the last day, and if you click the all news button at the bottom, it breaks it down by day after that, and things you have seen already or opened already are unbold, and things that are still new regardless of day remain bold in the list. It's just the titles at that point. So there is that. But no, the thing I was saying they haven't figured out is, so they make this, Miyamoto and that Nintendo Direct gets up and is like, Nintendo Directs and how we bring content directly to you and news and updates and important information. We have an app for that now. And then you open the app and it's like a silhouette of Mario. Who's that character? And then it's like a picture of the Mario Galaxy box art. And then it's like 5 seconds of a spinning animation of Donkey Kong's new model in Bonanza. And it's like fun, lighthearted things. They have like Pikmin comic strips. They have little like, if you remember when Mario Odyssey came out, they had those little animations of Mario and Bowser and Peach doing stuff like running around like white blank backgrounds. They did it for Mario Wonder as well. They like brought those in, so they resurfaced those. They have like old concept art of like Metroid games and stuff, and they kind of rotate one thing a day, or like character profiles about like Fire Emblem people or that sort of thing. But they don't have any news. Even though they were like, this is their place for news directly from Nintendo. Like, the initial thought was, oh, this is going to be like their new social media feed, kind of. But like, they never uploaded the pre-order date. They never even announced the delay of the pre-orders in the app or the new one, even though it's on Nintendo.com. They never, like, this is a great place where they could have cleared up pricing information or things. Like when Mario Kart, when the rumors of it being $90 were spreading, they could have easily, like, check out this new, look, it's Toadette, and here's some screenshots of Toadette in Mario Kart, because they do like a character profile every couple of days, and they could just put at the bottom of that like pre-order now for $80, but they didn't even like put that. It's just like so weirdly missing like the little extra piece of actual information. It's fun to browse. I spent like 5 minutes, just cruising through it a day. Like, it's cute, for lack of a better word, but it's such a strange. It kind of feels like, I don't know if you guys have ever visited the Play Nintendo.
Yeah, I wish it was just a straight up feed on the home button.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have to go down and click on news, and then I get like the daily breakdown.
Well, that's just beyond. That's like when you land on a homepage of a website, and if you want to read the news beyond what's on the homepage, you click in. That's what that is.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
That is one thing I miss about, at least when I looked at Go Nintendo. I don't even know if they're still around. I haven't looked at them in
They're still around.
half a decade. But they were definitely like one of the most efficient and nicest like news Nintendo feeds, because they literally grabbed everything, which was both a good and a bad thing depending on how diehard of a Nintendo fan you are. But when I was living like breathing and living and breathing, whatever the expression goes, Nintendo news, it was great seeing everything in chronological order, because I know no matter what, I can always just go in and be like, oh, scroll down fast until I recognize something, and then I know that's where I left off. But
you can literally do that with the news, with the Nintendo app today.
Yeah, but I don't like that. It's like 2 extra steps. It's just
that's fair. Yeah, because you have to go through today's, and then you go through this.
Yeah, you have to scroll all the way to the bottom, then click today, and that's already more than I would bother for at the level of Nintendo news care that I am.
And the thing is, it's not even Nintendo news. That's what I'm saying. It's like the other day, they're like, who's this character? And it was Toad. It's just a silhouette of a generic Toad. They did Mario and Luigi, and Princess Peach. Like, it's very base level. Like, what I was starting to say is, I don't know if you've ever been. Nintendo's like a kids-friendly like activity site called Play Nintendo, where they have like trivia and like BuzzFeed quiz type of things, and like you can print out cutouts of characters and make like little paper art, and they have like a YouTube channel with like kid reporters like going to Nintendo stuff. Like, how like Nickelodeon would be like, hey, we're sending a kid to this thing, and they'd be like, I'm the kid at this thing. Like, Nintendo does it themselves basically. Actually, one of those kids for Play Nintendo was like doing a video walkthrough of the Switch 2 experience when I was there, I think. It was definitely a kid with a microphone, so I'm guessing it was Play Nintendo. But this app feels more like that in many ways than what Miyamoto pitched it as in the initial announcement, which would be fine, except at the same time, they're also not providing some of this information on their socials in the way one would expect. Like, they didn't. I thought this was interesting, and I didn't notice this until I think it was actually Kit and Krista who pointed this out. Like, one of them tweeted something that was kind of referencing this. Nintendo didn't announce the new pre-order date on their socials until the day of the pre-orders. There are 5 days where Nintendo just was like, well, you'll figure it out. Like, it was on their website, but if you just follow Nintendo on Insta, Twitter, Facebook, anything, they did not give any indication that pre-orders were coming. Which is like it weird. Like, you have 2 ways to tell people information. You have an app that you choose to make just kind of a fun thing, and they have a socials that you're now choosing to make kind of a fun thing. And there's just like, you wonder how all this misinformation gets spread, or how people don't understand what's going on with Switch 2.
That was how they announced the release date for the Zelda movie, and that's something.
That's true. Yeah, once in a blue moon they do that. And it's actually, I also credit to Nintendo today. It's a really kind of neat way to get to see the stuff up close with the Switch 2. One thing Miyamoto promised that they followed through on, there are daily Switch 2 updates only in the app. And these are actually basically like almost ASMR style, like just full videos of like, here's someone using a Pro controller, look at it from every angle, or like 3D models you can spin around, or little blurbs about like, here's what it looks like to slot the controller into the wheel accessory and out. Like it that's kind of neat in like a just general interest sort of way. But yeah, like it's weird they didn't put pre-orders in there. Even for their retail partners, if I was GameStop or Best Buy, I would have loved if Nintendo put an update like pre-orders coming Wednesday. Here are our partners, and just link to my website. Like that would have been a great, like, such a strange. No retailers could be like, only we want to announce it. Like they would love that exposure, and it would have given more people an opportunity to know it's coming. It also would have hurt pre-sales a little more. It would have been harder even maybe, but like it just seems, I don't know. They're trying to figure something out that I feel like they once understood how to do, which is disseminate information, and now they're trying to like relearn it, and it's just been interesting to watch. But again, all's well that ends well. At least the collective of us that wanted Switch 2s without much, with willing to put up with the hassle, we got them. So we'll just see where it goes from here. But it's interesting time to follow Nintendo and their ways of doing things, I will say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't talk. I don't think last episode. I don't think we ever got confirmation of the price of what was going to happen with the tariffs, right?
That's true. That came out after with the pre-order information. Should we run through that real fast for those who maybe aren't fully aware? Yeah, if you want to. Sure. Okay. So anyone who, if you pre-order a Switch, you would recognize that the price of the console was the exact same, is $449 or $500, depending on if you get the digital Mario Kart bundle or not. The games remain at the prices they are, so you're still paying $80 for Mario Kart. You're still paying $10 for Welcome Tour. I don't see a scenario where Nintendo's changing that. I think, if anything, they would push people who have concerns about the $8 Mario Kart to just get the bundle. So there is an option. But where the pricing was most visible was on accessories. And this is where I think Nintendo tried to catch their margins back up a little in light of the uncertainty around tariffs, and in light of the fact that while the console is being made in Vietnam and I think somewhere else, Cambodia maybe, and the games are mostly, I believe, produced in Japan, the accessories are actually pretty heavily out of China, which does have crazy high tariffs at the moment. Trump walked back some of them, but they're going to be unwalked back, I think, next week. So as a result, every accessory is basically $5 more than it previously was, which means you're talking about like an $85 Pro controller, a $55 camera, and also the wrist strap. If you want to get an extra wrist strap for your Joy-Con with the little plastic thing that like hooks into, that went up by $1. So wherever Nintendo can get some margins back, they're doing it. The most noticeable beyond that was Amiibo, which jumped, I think, like $10. Like the new Zelda ones and the Street Fighter ones, like those are like $30 and $40 now. So that's kind of the lay of the land. Nintendo was very clear in their announcement about the pricing that all of this is subject to change based on market conditions, which I think translates to we're going to ride out the launch with these prices, and if, more tariffs come down the pipe, then guess what? Everything's going up. But I do appreciate, and I do think they recognize that it's hard to sell the system at a higher price or the games. Like, I mean, first of all, luckily the tariffs came down a little, but they were in a weird conundrum where, as I was saying, they had a bunch of consoles already here in the U.S. since January. They're producing these things at a crazy scale. Bloomberg, I read, is estimating that this will be the biggest console launch of all time with 6 to 8 million units worldwide at launch. So Nintendo's been beefing up their inventory for quite a while. And even in Japan alone, 2.2 million people expressed interest in getting one of these things at launch. So, like, there's a huge demand, even with all the crazy messaging issues. There's a huge demand, and Nintendo's been beefing up for that. And the issue they run into with tariffs is, so they have half, let's say, maybe, their U.S. inventory here pre-tariff. And then the other half, if the tariffs were to have stuck around, would be post-tariff. So do they split the difference of the tariff and raise the price like halfway to accommodate the tariff? Do they swallow some of the cost for the good PR? Do they, give you free Switch Online to counterbalance the tariff cost if it is included? Like, there's a lot of scenarios they would have had to consider. So the fact that the tariffs walked back and they were able to just be like, okay, because it's not made in China, we can keep the price the same, makes things a lot easier for them, at least in the short term. And they also, kind of interestingly, if you go to Nintendo.com, if you go look at any of the accessories or the console or anything, it lists the country of origin on the page now. It might have always been there, but people have noticed it following the tariff stuff. So you can go see exactly why your thing maybe does or does not cost a little more than it did prior to all this happening, because it'll show you exactly where it's coming from. So that's the situation currently with the pricing, and it's all subject to change again soon, maybe. Who knows?
Well, all right.
Was there anything else you wanted me to touch on with that?
No, not necessarily.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's messy. The whole thing's so messy. Another situation where Nintendo's doing things right and then something goes wrong and it's not necessarily their fault. Some of it's their fault. This one isn't.
Yeah. If you, I don't know. That it looked like a very standard launch. Personally, for me in this day and age, just because I'm so used to it.
No, I feel that. Yeah, and I think all things considered. And I feel like it got buried, and I just want to reemphasize it. Nintendo cranked a lot of these things out. I wouldn't be surprised if it was delayed into 2025 or if it's coming out this year, never delayed, because they wanted to crank all these out. And it is noticeable they cranked them out. And it's, they're still putting out apologies. Japan still has an issue of supply where they won't meet launch demand at all. They're already saying, sorry, you're going to have to wait a while. But, I don't know how anyone could expect. Japan, the original Switch sold 300,000 in its first week in Japan. 2.2 million people wanted this one at day one. I did the math the other day. That's a 550% increase in demand. Obviously, Nintendo knew there'd be an increase. Obviously, they prepared, but I think they're even, especially in Japan, blown away by some of the interest here. So, yeah, for everything going wrong, credit to Nintendo that they at least tried to get as many of these into people's hands as quickly as possible, or what they thought would be as many people's hands as quickly as possible. They're trying. It's not a past consoles where it's like a drip feed. They're really trying here. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, I want to get into a video game that I've been playing for a little bit. Unless Angel, you have anything more to add?
Nope. I am good.
Cool. I've been playing a game called Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
I'm very curious about this because somehow this thing blew up literally overnight, and I don't know anything about it. So yes, I'm very excited to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. It's the debut game from Sandfall Interactive, which is a smaller dev team that consists of former Ubisoft devs. And man, will it feel like that, because this game is very, very French, incredibly French. Final Fantasy French edition. It's a turn-based RPG, like you've mentioned, Jason. That's sort of taken the gaming world by storm, and for good reason. This is a very, very fantastic game that I'm having a lot of fun with. As I stated on Twitter, this is sort of doing the opposite of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I feel it's just as good. Just because it's doing the opposite doesn't mean that it's bad. So the game takes place in sort of this fantastical French town called Lumiere, and I'm gonna mess up all these names just because of how French they are. Where
I think
every
you said
year,
Lumiere, correct? To be fair, based on being,
I'm sure it's like Lumiere or
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So you're here in Lumiere, and every year for the last 67 years, across the sea, there is this godlike entity called the Paintress that paints a countdown on, I'm not sure if it's a tree or a giant stone or I don't know, but she's painting this big number on some sort of surface that everybody in Lumiere can see. At the beginning of the game, the number is 34. And so the town gathers for a ceremony that they call it's spelled Gommage. So it's either gommage or gourmet, or I don't know, it's French.
Gommage sounds like if it was your Twitter handle Frenchified. Like I said, go me or gommage or something.
Oh, I like that.
Right? Yeah, you're French now. Congrats.
Yeah.
It's like if your Twitter was a cheese, basically. You're gommage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Some cheesy Kevin Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, this gommage, it's a ceremony where, like I said, everybody gathers to see the Paintress essentially wake up. And at the beginning of the game, she wakes up and she paints the number 34 on. I'm sorry, the number 33 on it. And what happens, and you sort of learn what's happening during the prologue, which is about an hour long as you're talking to the citizens of the town and your fellow companions. The number that the paintress paints on the surface, essentially everybody who is of that age or older gets Thanos dusted. They just disappear. So that's what leads to Lumiere every year sending out a troop of explorers to sort of take down the paintress. And that's where the title comes from. You play as Expedition 33, which is the 67th troop to try and take down the paintress. And man, the place that you'll go on this weird island. This game is gorgeous, not in just how the graphics look. Like, it's a very pretty game with a few blemishes here and there. But it has some of the best art design I've ever seen in a video game. That's quite honestly probably been rivaled by Bloodborne or the first BioShock for me. You're traveling through like bioluminescent woods. There's an underwater like area with incredibly like colorful coral everywhere you look. Like, I'm currently about 7 hours in the game. I'm in like some woods where all the leaves and all the foliage is like this dark red that once hit by the light, by just the sun or whatever kind of sun they have in this world, it like pops like really, really well. And then like when you're traveling the overworld in between like these areas, it has like this awesome tilt shift look where you are tiny yet huge at the same time. It's great. And then the music is quite honestly some of the best music I've heard in a video game. Like, Angel, I implore you to listen to this soundtrack because it's so good. And then like the score perfectly complements the mood and setting of the game. Like I said, it's a turn-based RPG, and once again, it's probably one of the best, if not just straight up the best turn-based RPG I've ever played in my entire life. Like, as much as I love the Persona series, its combat is not nearly as deep as this game's. Like, to start off with, every character has a gimmick. I currently have 3 party members, and like the main character, Gustav, who's played by Charlie Cox of all people. It's really funny hearing his.
How did they?
Who is
Daredevil.
He's a Daredevil.
How did a new studio nab Charlie Cox?
I don't know, but
for
this
anything
game has a couple of. He was in that movie, Stardust. I think Stardust. Let me see.
Charlie Cox?
Stardust.
Or are we talking about
Charlie,
someone else now?
Yeah, Charlie Cox.
I mean, I haven't
Stardust.
seen Daredevil, but I guess I did see No Way Home.
You did see No Way Home,
Yeah,
and you
which
did see
was
Daredevil.
You
there.
saw him in No Way Home, yes. At their dining or kitchen table, yes.
Did we watch Daredevil in a premiere? No, that wasn't me. I don't know. I've seen the one with Ben
Well,
Affleck,
anyways,
but yeah, anyway.
Wait, this guy you don't know, Angel, is in it. Yeah.
yeah, Charlie Cox is in this game.
Courtney
There's
Cox, his
another.
sister.
No, definitely not Courtney Cox.
That'd be friends.
Yeah, he's the main character in this game. There's also another character that I still haven't met yet that's played by Ben Starr, who is sort of this voice actor that's blown up recently because he was the main character in Final Fantasy 16.
He also had that viral video of auditioning to be the new voice of Mario. That was pretty solid. I remember.
Yeah, like this game has some real like talent behind its voices. So Gustav, he has this sort of like Winter Soldier-esque arm that will that charges up based on the actions that you perform. There's this other character, Loon. She's like your magic user, and her whole thing is if you use like, let's say, her fire spell, you'll gain a fire point. But then your ice spell will be able to do more damage by using that fire point that you've stashed. So you can sort of chain spells together. So you get the best out of those abilities. And then there's a third character whose name is Maya, who will change her battle stance with every ability that you'll do. And each stance will give you a different buff. But on top of all of that, and where the game is getting a lot of praise, even though it's not the first game to do it, this has Paper Mario's dodge and block system.
Oh,
Yeah, I
that
remember.
certainly has my attention, kind of. I mean, it sounds amazing, but that in particular has my attention, kind of.
Your friend was
Yeah.
describing the combat, and they'd never play any Mario and Luigi game. But when they were describing it, I was like, "Oh, so this is Mario and Luigi," and then I was like, "Oh, okay, get behind that."
Interesting.
Yeah,
It's French Mario and Luigi with Kevin Cheese.
Yeah.
Good music,
When
apparently.
every enemy goes in to attack you, you've got the option to either dodge or parry that attack. And they do give you a third option, jumping, but that is mainly safe for the boss battles.
Mario and Luigi
Dodging an
has that
attack-
option too. Interesting.
Yeah. Dodging has a larger window where if somebody is going to attack you, you can dodge a little bit earlier and still not get hit. But there's also perfect dodging, and what you really want to do is parry everybody's attack. Parrying will you'll have to be pretty precise with the block. But the reason that you'll want to parry over dodging is doing a successful parry will allow you to counterattack an enemy and take a good chunk of its health. Like I said, there are some moves that you'll be able to jump out of the way, and there are moves that the bosses will try to hit you with and will hit the entire party. And you'll want to parry those because basically every successful parry or every perfect dodge, which if you're gonna earn a perfect dodge, you might as well parry. Every successful parry, you'll earn an ability point to actually use those characters' gimmick abilities. So attacking an enemy will give you an ability point, right? You have a stack of 10 ability points that you can get. For instance, when I want to unleash the charge in Winter Soldier's arm, it takes about 6 ability points. So I either have to attack an enemy 6 times to get the option to even use that move in the first place, or I can take a few hits and parry them and gain ability points that way. And there's a lot of mixing and matching that you can do with abilities. So one of my favorite things to do right now is with Loon, my spellcaster, I will burn an enemy with a fire move. And then with Maya, she has a move that if she successfully hits an enemy while that character is burned, she'll switch into her strongest stance, where the next time I hit an enemy with her regular ability, it'll do 200% of the damage that it usually would do. So right now I'm still sort of min-maxing what I can do with my current abilities. This being an RPG, I will be you will be collecting weapons that are imbued with their own stat buffs, or will be imbued with a magical element themselves. I'm collecting items that will unlock little stat buffs or little opportunities for me to do even more increased damage. You'll be leveling up your character's abilities themselves, and you'll be unlocking even more abilities so that you can mix and match to your playstyle. This game is fantastic. The only part that I'm not crazy about is these worlds where you'll be doing most of your combat, right? That bioluminescent wood or that underwater level. There is no mini map, and the game very much wants you to explore because you'll be going down a road and then there'll be a fork in the road, but you won't know which one you're supposed to be going towards because that underwater level I missed a ton of because I somehow kept going on the right path that led me out of that area. I can go back to it, but as great as the art direction is, there's a lot of times where I got lost because a lot of the world just looked familiar. For instance, that first area, that bioluminescent woods that you're in, I just had to go from point A to B, and there was like this bridge on the way over there. But if you didn't know your bearings, you do have a compass, I guess. But like if you don't know your bearings, I kept going forward, turning by accident, and then somehow making my way back to point A more than 2 times. To the point where I was going to do that maze. You know how if you're stuck in a maze, the way that they say that you escape is like you just hug either the left or right side of the maze, and
and just follow it all the way through. Yeah.
That's essentially what I started doing with this game, because there is no mini map. Like, don't give me an objective like on that mini map, but just give me a mini map that shows me where I've been. Because you can get lost in this game. Hopefully, it's not an issue later on in the game. I have heard this I guess complaint a little bit from like the Kind of Funny guys. Also had this issue where like they just wish that we had a mini map. And it doesn't seem like they're going to add one, which is a little frustrating. But regardless, like it's a great game. If I had to review it like just with a couple of like few hours that I've had, it'd probably be a 9 out of 10 for me. Obviously I'm still gonna go through the entire thing because the combat is just super, super fun. Like getting those parries is so satisfying, and like I've read somewhere that people are calling this the Dark Souls of RPGs, and yeah, this might be the first time that I ever agree, because parrying and blocking and dodging at the right time is so important for this game's combat system that it just feels really, really good. And thankfully I'm very well versed in the Soulsborne From Software games, so I'm nailing a lot of these parries. And even if you can't parry, you can still dodge. Like I said, you have a larger window, but then you could also just lower the difficulty a little bit, and then you wouldn't even have to worry about those. You can still tank like hits that enemies are throwing at you. Obviously not as much as you were to dodge or parry, but there's still a lot of fun to be had even if you're not into that sort of timing. Yeah, Expedition 33. They've sold 1 million copies since the launch.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. Yeah, it came out end of last year. They sold 500,000 in a day and 1 million since, or up to 1 million now since.
Yeah.
How? What is it available on Steam and?
So it's on PC. No, but I wouldn't be surprised if this comes to Switch too.
I'd be shocked if it doesn't come to Switch too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right now it's on Xbox and PC, both via Game Pass, but you can also buy it on Steam, and it's on PlayStation.
Oh, that's partly the word of okay. So people are dabbling in it in Game Pass, and that's a little the word of mouth, and then it rises up the Steam most played games, and then people find it that way. I was trying to figure out how it went from like non-existent to everywhere, and I guess that 1-2 punch would do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm playing it through PC Game Pass, but it's also $50. So it's not, it's not at the price that a game like this should be $60, quite honestly. But they're selling it for $50. So good for them. Like I said, it's a smaller team. There's this claim that was developed by 33 people. I'm like, well, Sandfall Interactive themselves are 30-ish people, but they still outsource like a lot of stuff. The main dev team, yes, is 33 people or 34 or whatever that number is, but there's still more than those people that make this game come to life.
I do think also that, like, kind of outside looking in here, having it be a debut game for a new studio, that seems like, from everything you're saying, basically a JRPG through the lens of like a Western team that cut its teeth on like all the Ubisoft stuff over the years. Like having have this strong of a debut is like pretty impressive for any size team to come out of the gate that's like swinging like this. It's very, very kind of. I mean, Pal World had a little extra oomph because it got like Game Awards pushes and stuff, but very similar to like the virality that Pal World underwent, where it just like came out of the gate just guns ablazing, no pun intended, and really took off. Like it's really interesting. I think the active player list on Steam is something. If I were PlayStation or Xbox or Nintendo, I would look at and go, there's a really interesting system in place here with this most active list where people actually use it to discover for discoverability, and it leads to these sort of viral moments for games that in the same way a viral video can blow up or something, or a TikTok of a song can make a song popular. Like we're seeing it with games now, and it's interesting. It didn't used to be that way. Digital downloads make it possible, accessibility makes it possible, but it's just like kind of a new chapter with gaming where like anyone, if they get the right secret sauce and the right momentum and word of mouth, can be the next big hit. Yeah.
Yeah, they like straight up shout out to Game Pass. We talk about it here and there, but none of us actually ever have it. I mean, the only ones that could get it here are me and Angel. Like, Jason, you don't have a PC.
Correct.
None of us have Xboxes.
Correct.
They have a $1 trial right now.
A phone is an Xbox. A TV is an Xbox.
Everything's an Xbox. I actually thought that was a good campaign, and they dropped it so fast in favor of that like mouse running the rat race of a job only to turn to a human at the end of the commercial. You know what I'm talking about? That new one that they just put out.
They dropped it because they got what's it called? They got clowned on so much.
But like it was kind of true. Like it was a very effective like this. You could play Xbox on anything with Game Pass. Like I get why it was clowned on, but I feel like the new one is also even more so being clowned on.
Yeah, like like I said, Game Pass is incredible for $20. I know how do I put this? I understand that these are not my games and that I am just renting them with Game Pass in a sense. Game ownership has seen some of its most controversial discourse because of, funnily enough, who was it? Yves Guillemot from Ubisoft saying like, or I don't know if it was Yves or somebody with Ubisoft saying like, yeah, gamers should get used to not actually owning their games, which is, man, Ubisoft, you guys are on a roll here.
And they're getting acquired because of it. But
but for like $20, I think for PC Game Pass, or I think it might be like $14. Like I'm playing Clair Obscur. I downloaded Balatro and I played an hour of because I knew it was going to ruin my life if I kept going. I have Hi-Fi Rush installed, Indiana Jones, the one that just came out a couple months ago, Metal Slug Tactics, which I never got around to playing, and that Ninja Gaiden 2 Black remaster that came out a while ago. And there's still tons and tons of video games on Game Pass that I would still like to play on top of that. Like,
go ahead.
It's wild.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as much as we like to kind of poke at Ubisoft and comments like that, he's not wrong. He said it prematurely. Xbox did it prematurely with Xbox One. Nintendo's kind of going through it now with like the game key stuff, where it's like you get a cartridge, but all the cartridge does is download a game. And it turns out most third-party Switch 2 games are using game keys. So game key cards, excuse me. So this idea that like your games are your games until they're not your games, and then slowly we just all accept that they're not our games, is exactly what we saw happen with movies and TV shows. Yeah. And there's a subset of a market where people will buy the stuff and enjoy it. But like I think about Nintendo Switch Online, turn off your subscription, you lose all those classic games. And that's a big selling point of the Switch is day one, it's got to have GameCube games available. Strikers might be slightly after day one, but Wind Waker, F-Zero GX, Soul Calibur 2, like those are there with your subscription and then they're gone. And a lot of these people never had a chance to own those games because they're younger and they're never getting a chance to own those games, but they're embracing it the same way you're embracing Game Pass. Like I think ultimately there's going to be two lanes. And I think what's really difficult as someone who loves physical games like myself and is bummed that game key cards are such a thing for third parties on Switch 2, because that means I really don't have physical games if I get third party ones. I think there's going to be a subset of people are going to be bummed about that, but more and more and more, Yves was right. What's his name? Don Merrick in 2013 was right. Like, They're just a little ahead of the curve, but ultimately, a lot of the stuff we play is not going to be stuff we own. It's going to be stuff that we like have a license to. And if something changes or if the server goes down or whatever, away it goes, just like with movies. Even if you think about movies and freeware, like if you buy a Blu-ray and you get like the digital download code or whatever, yeah, it's still authenticated at some point. And once authentication's dead in 20 years in the post-apocalyptic world we're living in, well, there goes your movie. So yeah, it's just a growing reality. And it does suck. Like I said, as someone that likes my physical games, especially to see so many companies very quickly hopping off the idea or like faking the idea of a physical game with the game key cards. But I think they're not wrong. I mean, even I'm going to talk about in a little bit Black Mirror, and they did a companion game for it. And that game was a download on my phone. It's an app I open, free with my Netflix. If I ever cancel my Netflix, there goes the little companion game. And I've never thought, oh, I wish I had a physical copy of the companion game, because the companion game is only available in a subscription service. So that's just the same way you get some shows on Netflix that never get a physical release. That's just the way of the world, for better or worse. So it sucks to hear someone out loud say it, but I think we are slowly, and the fact that you're so amicable, Game Pass, and I've heard great things about its library, like we are slowly like moving that way, and we're all going to embrace it to some degree over some point of time. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So cool. That was my time with Game Pass. I agree with Game Pass with Expedition 33.
And Game Pass briefly.
Yeah, Jason, you've been staring in the Black Mirror.
Yes, yeah. Actually, it's funny because I was just saying about with the Netflix subscription. Yeah. So I feel like there's a lot of. It's a good time to watch TV right now. Honestly, like there's so many. Like Last of Us just came back. I almost call it The Last of Us. The Last of Us just came back. Andor's back. For me personally, I'm very excited. Conan O'Brien Must Go season 2 is coming out May 8th. I have a lot of TV, but the one I wanted to focus on now is one that is a little more isolated and self-contained. Black Mirror. They put out 5 new episodes. Have you guys watched much Black Mirror? Are you guys fans of Black Mirror?
I watched seasons 1 or series 1 and series 2 back in the day when they were like BBC shows.
Right. Before Netflix took them over.
Before Netflix took over. I think the last Black Mirror I consumed was... I think they had a special in between Series 2 and Season 3. Yes, I'm going to be that person. The one with John Hamm, which was a while ago.
Yeah.
Like pre-COVID,
like the Christmassy-ish one, right? Is it that one?
Which one?
Didn't they do like a Christmassy one, kind of?
Yeah, it was that one. White Bear, I think.
Yes, White Bear. Yeah. It's been on so many years, I barely remember some of the early ones, but yeah, and then you kind of fell off as it got Netflix-defied a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah. What about you, Angel? You ever watch Black Mirror?
I watched one episode a long time ago, and I enjoyed it, and I don't really know why I didn't go beyond that.
Well, lucky you. There's 7 seasons now, if you ever want to go back.
That makes me feel like...
they're all isolated stories, so you can just hop around.
I know it's an anthology series. Yeah. I mean, I'm very familiar with the premise. It's just, it's a
lot of TV.
It's just a lot of TV. There's plenty of things I want to watch right now. But I enjoyed the premise. I think the only episode I saw was, I think it had to do with like everything you see is recorded at all times, and
the entire history of you, which I think is probably the best episode of Black Mirror.
It's up there for sure.
And I think it was like, where were you last night? Like, show me your what is with this gap or something.
Your
like
grain.
That.
Like I remember that episode so fondly. That's
I guess of all the episodes I've seen. I think it was the first one then, or maybe I just happened to.
It's in the early seasons for sure. It's the very first one is the guy with the pig. Yeah.
Weird one to start.
It
might be is 1 or 2.
I really, really liked those first 2 seasons.
They had a grit to them that they kind of like. There's like a glossy sheen that came in some of the later seasons, but there's like
like you said, the Netflixification of
and then it got interesting because season 6 they like dipped their toe into horror, and they actually did like a full, or not even horror, but like a little, and they even did a whole episode that was called like Red Mirror instead of Black Mirror, and those were fine. I wouldn't say it was like horror, but it was like scarier instead of sci-fi. But what I've always liked about Black Mirror is I like grounded sci-fi. Like I like sci-fi that's like 1 or 2 steps removed from reality a lot. And A lot of these episodes are that. Obviously not all. There's like the USS Callister episode, which is both sort of grounded in reality, but like 2/3 of the episode is also like a Star Trek send up. So they're like in space, but it's actually in a video game. But anyway, so season 7 came out, and what I thought was actually kind of interesting is it did go back a little to some of the vibe of the earlier seasons. I wouldn't say pre-Netflix per se, but a little more like grounded sci-fi. Different. Every episode obviously has a different vibe and tone, and some are more lighthearted, and some aren't. But one thing that has happened since it joined Netflix that I wanted to really kind of focus in on with season 7, they are the one show that probably leverages the fact that they're on a streaming platform better than any show, period. It's a show about technology, and it knows how to use the technology in which it's presented on. And they first tried this with like the Bandersnatch spin-off episode thing, like a one-off special. It was a choose your own adventure. And it was about like developing a video game at this company called Tuckersoft. And it was like literally choose your own adventure. Like there are menu choices you did, and there are different endings you could do, and you could rewatch it in different ways. And it was the first time Netflix tried that. They did a couple other shows as well, but that was like the first go at Black Mirror really kind of leveraging what it's on. And I thought that was interesting. And then this season, they do it a few different ways that I thought were actually kind of cool. One way, there's an episode, what's it called? It's the second episode of the new season. I believe it's called like Bella Norte or something like that. Let me see if I had it in my notes. It's called, Bede Noir. There we go. And one of the things they explore in the show is kind of the idea of the Mandela effect. And I'm not going to spoil like where the show goes. I don't really like the ending of the episode, but they explore like the Mandela effect and how can it, like what if you heighten it to extreme degrees, the same way that Black Mirror does with a lot of its technology emphasis. Is like, here's an idea you're used to, heighten it to an extreme degree. The first episode of the season is the idea of having a subscription service like Netflix, but heightened to the extreme degree. And so it's kind of fun that they're meta like that. But then this episode, like I said, it's about the Mandela effect, which is this idea that you remember something different than how it actually was, or there's like a collective memory of something being one way and it's another way. And then, and I just love this, the show does it for real. So some people got a version of the episode that had something spelled one way. That's a plot point. And then other people got a version of the episode that has that same plot point with it spelled the opposite way. So in the plot point, there's a debate about which way it's spelled. And depending on luck of the draw, randomization, you get one of the two spellings and one of the two sets of dialogue that relate to that spelling in that scene. And then when you go and talk about the episode with people afterwards, there's a literal Mandela effect happening in real time because you don't know which one was the one you saw. Wait, did you see that one? Was that real? It's just, I thought it's such a clever use of having a streaming platform where they can play with technology like that. And that's just like, I just thought that was really clever. But then also, it's pretty cool. And then also there's a separate episode called Playthings, which is actually a sequel of sorts to the Bandersnatch special. It's set in the same world. It's the guy from Bandersnatch, this like amazing game developer guy. It's his next project. It's like set in the early 90s. And he creates this thing called Throng. And it's these little, it's like a, not very spoilers for it, don't worry, but it's like a little living, breathing digital organism in a computer in like 1994, and it's modeled around kind of like a Tamagotchi or like your resource management game, like a SimAnts or a SimCity or a Sim Park or any of those sim games, which I used to play a ton as a kid. Like I was all about the Sim series on my dad's computer, so like it kind of hit home. But basically the idea of like, what if those little creatures are actually like alive, and kind of what happens if they like start needing more stuff to live, and if they want, they need more space to grow, like physically, like megabytes, and like they need, and it just goes from there. But what's fun about that, again, because they're leveraging what they have, Netflix has the game subscription service. So in tandem with this episode coming out and the season coming out, they released an iPhone game they can download and play for free with your Netflix subscription that is the Thronglets game from the episode. And it goes through its own narrative thing. It's like, it's not 100% the same game, but it's very close. But it goes through its own narrative. And it starts as like kind of a Tamagotchi thing. And then as you're playing it, you start to like do kind of more resource management. It turns into like a SimAnt or a Sim Park, like I was just describing, like for real, like you're actually playing it. And then it kind of takes this swerve, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but it takes a swerve into like almost like a visual novel, and it's really cool because it recognizes you're playing on a phone. It's about you playing on the phone. It's about leveraging what the phone can do to give the little Thronglets resources to grow and thrive and become what they need to become. And by the tail end of it, it becomes this like whole intense kind of emotional connection thing with the Throngs, and the way it's using the phone and discussing the phone and kind of being like meta about being in your phone reminded me so much of a Mr. Robot companion game that came out in like 2015 with the back end of the first season or maybe the second season, where you were basically hacking and you were using your phone to do the hacking. The whole game was through like text chains and like phone operating system and stuff, but it was like a game. And it turns out, same exact developer. And that developer, it turns out, is Night School Studio, who makes Oxenfree. Their very first game was the Mr. Robot game. Their latest game, after being acquired by Netflix and doing Oxenfree 2, was the Thronglet game. And I was just like, oh, look at that, small world. But yeah, just like the way Black Mirror, it's not just like you're watching a thing about sci-fi, but you get to like kind of experience it through the technology you own yourself. For better or worse, as scary as some of the premises it comes up with are, I just think it's such a cool way to do a show. And yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. But definitely check out Thronglets. If you watch the Playthings episode, definitely get the game as well. It's like a 2 to 3 hour experience. It's not long at all. It's quite addicting because you just want to keep like helping your little Thronglets. And it's very like kind of like Bandersnatch. It's very choice driven. So there are actually multiple paths you can take in the Thronglets, and you can have different kind of connections to one another and like a different experience based on if you're nicer to them or meaner to them and that sort of thing. And as you play through it repeatedly, you also unlock additional bonus clips of like developer diaries and stuff that have the cast from the episode, as if you really are playing, like the deluxe edition or something of the game that came from the episode, complete with like bonus commentary. And like, it's just really well done. Like, and it makes sense. The guy that does Black Mirror, Charlie Booker, he started in the 90s as a PC game reviewer for PC Gaming Magazine. So he definitely, and this in particular, this episode in the game really feel like a send up to that era. But yeah, it's I'm enjoying all the shows on TV right now, but there's nothing quite like Black Mirror in terms of like how it makes you feel like you're kind of part of it in a way. So that's what I want to share about Black Mirror, and encourage you guys to check out Thronglets if you do end up watching the Playthings episode.
Do they have a video games? Oh, well, never mind. Like
what?
Every season somehow has a video game episode.
Oh yeah, this one is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not only is it a like game episode, but straight up they go all the way through basically the console lineage. You see a Switch in it, you see a Dreamcast in it. Like, I'm not gonna spoil how or why, but like it's like the game's made in the 90s, and then time progresses, and you actually see like a whole lineage of consoles kind of pass through as passing references. So it's a very video gamey episode in many ways. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think the last thing here on the docket is just my full review or my full thoughts on Daredevil Born Again. This ended, I think, maybe about 3-4 weeks ago. I think the week after our last episode, with a season 2 already confirmed. I was really hot on those first 4 episodes. I thought that they were just as good as the Netflix stuff. I am saddened to say I did not feel that hot for the rest of the season.
Oh no.
So like I said back when I talked about it, this is basically okay, this is once again another one of my doings where I sort of hyped this season up myself, especially with those first 4 episodes, thinking that version 1 of Born Again wasn't going to affect this new version a lot. No, it turns out it affected it a lot, actually. The rest of the season feels incredibly disjointed. To the point where they set up like these, maybe not necessarily incredibly interesting characters, but they set up characters and then almost get rid of them with screw it. I'm going full spoilers for Born Again. Do you guys care?
I might care. I might care. No,
Okay.
go ahead. I can dip out. Ping me.
No. In that case, I won't
Okay.
go full spoilers. But they introduce a character that I thought was going to be part of the rest of the season and sort of going to be the main focus of the series, and it doesn't turn out to do that at all. And they sort of hype up this character and then just quickly get rid of him.
Hmm.
So apparently, the way that they sort of Frankenstein this together was they reshot the first episode, and the final 2 episodes of this season are completely original, devoid of any of version 1 of Born Again. And you could definitely feel that
interesting.
completely.
Yeah.
Because the characters definitely feel different. They bring back characters from that first episode that we haven't like seen or talked about since that first episode. Like, it all is very much this is like a Frankenstein season. And even episodes 2, which ones are my favorite ones? I think it was like episode 3 and 4 are sort of carried over from this first season. I'm sorry, from the first version of Born Again. And I felt that they were incredibly strong episodes. And it sort of just goes off the rails from there. There's a one-off episode that takes place in a bank. That is really, really fun, but it has almost absolutely zero to do with the rest of the series, quite honestly. Yeah, it's just it's incredibly odd. It's an odd season of television. Like I said, it's a Frankenstein season. And even those last 2 episodes that are like wholly original, I didn't think that they were all that great. They were fine.
Maybe that's why they reshot the rest of the season.
but they definitely felt like improvements from the rest of the season. Yeah, but they never get close to sort of the greatness of some of the stuff on Daredevil, on Netflix Daredevil. But my only sort of glimmer of hope is the fact that season 2, like, we're starting off completely with the same crew that did these like reshot episodes, so season 2 shouldn't feel as disjointed as this season felt for me, which I'm really looking forward to. They have a lot of explaining to do, because this season ends on a very wait, where's these characters at if this is supposed to be happening in New York kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see where they take season 2. But
I'm sensing, or sorry, go ahead.
I like you, Jason. I would still watch this season. Okay. Maybe you won't find it as disjointed as I do. There is still a storyline. There's still a connective tissue between episodes, with maybe the exception of that bank episode. There's still a connective tissue that runs along the entire series, but it's a very, very thin, one-ply piece of tissue.
Fair. I will say, to that point, I'm sensing, and obviously I haven't seen Daredevil, but I'm sensing it with other stuff. When Disney gives directors and creative teams the freedom to do their thing, they can put out some really good stuff. And sometimes, things that you'd be like, oh, Disney allowed that? Like, Andor, the first episode of the new season, it's Star Wars, right? Straight up attempted rape scene. Not really. Maybe it's the third episode, but like, that wouldn't be in Star Wars. But they trust the vision of the director. They trust Daredevil. They trust the vision of what they were going for. They let them do their thing. But when Disney tries to meddle to make it a little better, and then they keep stitching things in, and they keep doing reshoots, and that's becoming more and more and more common. Man, I feel like Thunderbolts might go through this when it comes out next week. Captain America: Brave New World went through this. A lot of the Disney Plus shows went through this. It's really interesting to see how, as they've been trying to broaden out the scope of these universes, be it the Star Wars expanded universe or the MCU, they keep getting stuck in these. I'm going to use it a second time, Angel. Quagmires. They keep getting stuck in these where like they're just in like a development hell and they just have to like push through the development hell whether or not there's a vision to go with it. And what you're saying about Daredevil kind of sounds like another example of that. And they didn't have this problem with the first 3 phases of the MCU, I think, because there's a more consistent vision and they trusted their directors a little more. And there are obviously peaks and valleys, but it seems like the valleys are getting bigger the more Disney tries to meddle to try and like course correct someone's vision to be like Disneyfied in some corporate way. And when they don't do it, stuff is still great, but it sounds like Daryl might have succumbed to that a little. If what I'm understanding from you is correct, it just matches the pattern I'm noticing with other stuff. I don't know if you feel the same way, but
I don't. I can see.
Like,
I can see where you're coming from.
yeah, like I doubt. I'm guessing it was Disney that was like, we need to redo some of Born Again, not.
No, it was Feige.
Oh, well, that's what I mean, like corporate level. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but like from word of mouth from the actors and the crew themselves, that version 1 of Born Again apparently sucked really bad.
Oh, well, so maybe there's reason to do it sometimes, but
yeah, like John Bernthal refused to do that first version of Born Again.
okay, well, then I take it back a little because that is actually respecting the vision of the people involved, John Bernthal and all. But yeah, it definitely feels like this Frankensteining is happening more and more and more and more than I remember it being in early MCU days and earlier Star Wars days.
And from what I understand, apparently Thunderbolts is getting really good reviews.
Is it? I just know they had to reshoot so much of it. Yeah. Well, if it's getting good reviews, again, I might take it back. It's just kind of a pattern I was picking
Marvel
up
movies. I happen to be watching it next week, so I guess I'll see what that's like.
I've seen.
I don't think I've seen any movies that any of those characters came out in except for Winter Soldier. And I guess the last episode of
You're gonna be confused.
Hawkeye and Winter Soldier, but I don't think U.S. Agent was in that part.
First of all, real quick, it's Falcon and Winter Soldier.
The last 15
not
minutes of
Hawkeye.
the last episode. Yeah.
U.S. Agent is U.S. Agent is in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah, but I only saw the last. But only saw the last 15 minutes of the last episode.
Oh, yeah, I think he's in the last 15 minutes.
He is.
I just remember
he's the key.
The new Captain America giving a speech
antagonist in
to
it.
government people, and that's about it. But
Well, that's definitely not 15 minutes worth of content.
No,
well, that's all I
like a 2-minute
remember.
scene.
Is what I meant, but yeah.
And I do want to clarify, I still enjoy most of the MCU. I'm just, the seams are showing more than they used to, is I guess what I'm trying to say. And it sounds like Daredevil, for one reason or another, the seams are showing more than they used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's going to
It'll be fun.
it.
I really hope I didn't spoil Andor for anyone when I just kind of casually threw in what I said about what happens in the 3rd episode. Yeah, when I threw in a certain scene. No one knows who I'm talking about in the show, so yeah. Consider it a trigger warning, folks. Not a spoiler, a trigger warning, just in case. I'm looking out for you, not spoiling.
Sure. That'll do it for this episode. Jason, take us through housekeeping.
Oh, sure. Okay. So, yeah, that does it. To make sure you don't miss our future episodes, be sure to subscribe to us on all your favorite podcast apps. Presumably you just have one app. I don't know why I said plural, but that app could be Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Pandora, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, TuneIn. We're on YouTube at Ram Nintendo if that's your cup of tea. You can also find us individually on the internets. I am JSR7 on Threads and Twitter. Kevin is KVN Gomi on Twitter and Blue Sky, and Angel is World of Weros on Instagram, and that's World of Weros with an S at the end. Back to you, Kevin. Back to you, Gomage or whatever we were calling you before.
Yeah, go French Gomi Gomage. Yeah, that'll do it for this episode. Are we back in 2 weeks?
I assume.
I don't think we decided.
It's Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, hey, whenever we're back, a reason to subscribe to that stuff. If you want to hear what it's like to meet Yoshi at Super Nintendo World, I'm doing that next week, so you can
Might be
hear all about
a day late, right? Because the Memorial Day weekend.
But that's like a month from now, Angel. This is the next one's like in early to mid-May.
I don't know. We could push it back because of Memorial Day weekend anyway. Because it's a holiday that
By your
exists.
logic, we can push back any episode because
forever
of,
for any reason. I mean,
yeah, because
technically
of
we can.
Christmas.
Technically we can.
There you go. You're getting it.
Yeah, don't miss our next episode in 2026 because we are celebrating Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's all for the next, 8 months.
Yeah. Angel, take us out with the final word.
I rewatched Wally recently, and it's better than I remembered.
Hell yeah.